Poor girl delivered flowers to the wrong house. The billionaire whispered, "Stay, I'll pay double." Hello everyone, and welcome back to Romance Rewind Stories. Before we dive into today's incredible story, I have a small favor to ask. If you're enjoying these heartwarming tales, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads. It's quick, it's free, and it's the best way to support us in bringing you more emotional romance stories. And here's something I'd love to know. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I always enjoy seeing our amazing community from around the world. Oh, and if this story touches your heart, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps us grow and reach more people who love these kinds of tales. Now, let's get into today's story. Poor florist delivered flowers to the wrong penthouse. The billionaire whispered, "Stay, I'll pay double." The afternoon sun filtered through the glass doors of Bloom and Petal, the small flower shop where Iris Caldwell had worked for the past 4 years. The scent of roses and lilies filled the cramped space, mixing with the earthy smell of fresh soil. Iris stood behind the counter, carefully arranging white orchids into a crystal vase, her fingers moving with practiced precision. At 26, she'd learned to find beauty in small things. A perfectly formed tulip. The way morning light hit dewdrops on petals. The smile on a customer's face when they picked up flowers for someone they loved. It wasn't the life she'd imagined when she was younger, but it was hers, and she'd made peace with that. The bell above the door chimed, and her boss, Margaret, rushed in holding a clipboard, her reading glasses perched precariously on her nose. "Iris, I need you to do an emergency delivery," Margaret said breathlessly. "Penthouse suite at the Apex Tower. It's for some big shot businessman. The order came in an hour ago, and they're willing to pay triple for same-day delivery." Iris glanced at the clock. It was already 5:30, and she'd promised her younger sister Dahlia that she'd help her study for her college entrance exams tonight. But triple pay meant she could finally fix the leak in their apartment ceiling. "What's the address?" Iris asked, already untying her apron. "Penthouse at Apex Tower, Suite 4200. Name is—" Margaret squinted at the paper. "Callum Ashford. Apparently he's some tech mogul. Very wealthy, very particular." Iris loaded the arrangement, 24 long-stemmed red roses in an elegant black box, into her delivery van. The Apex Tower was across town, in the part of the city where buildings scraped the sky and doormen wore uniforms that cost more than her monthly rent. Traffic was thick, and by the time she pulled up to the glittering tower, the sun had begun to set, painting the windows gold and crimson. The doorman gave her a skeptical look, but checked his tablet and waved her through to the private elevator. The ride up felt endless. Iris watched the numbers climb, 30 floors, 35, 40, her reflection staring back at her from the polished steel. She looked tired. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and there was a smudge of pollen on her cheek. She wiped it away quickly. When the elevator opened directly into a penthouse foyer, Iris froze. The space was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. Modern art hung on pristine white walls. Everything was glass and marble and money. She checked the delivery slip again. Suite 4200. This was it. She knocked on the massive door, her knuckles barely making a sound against the heavy wood. No answer. She knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. Iris glanced at her phone. Margaret had said the client was expecting the delivery. Maybe he was in the shower or on a call. She tried the handle. It was unlocked. "Hello?" she called out, stepping inside. "Flower delivery for Mr. Ashford?" The penthouse was even more stunning inside. A grand piano sat near the windows. Bookshelves lined one wall, filled with leather-bound volumes. The kitchen looked like something from a magazine, all black granite and stainless steel. "Mr. Ashford?" she called again. A sound came from deeper in the apartment, a crash, then a groan. Iris's heart jumped. She set the flowers down on the marble counter and followed the sound down a hallway. A door at the end stood slightly ajar, warm light spilling through the crack. "Sir, are you okay?" She pushed the door open and gasped. A man lay on the floor beside an overturned chair, one hand pressed against his temple. Blood seeped between his fingers. Papers were scattered everywhere, and a laptop lay cracked on the expensive rug. "Oh my God," Iris breathed, rushing to his side. "What happened? Don't move! I'm calling an ambulance!" "No!" His voice was rough but commanding. He tried to sit up and winced. "No ambulance. Just help me up." Iris hesitated. He was clearly hurt, but something in his eyes, sharp, grey and stubbornly alert, told her he wasn't going to accept help easily. "You're bleeding," she said firmly. "You need medical attention." "I need to not make the news," he replied, finally looking at her properly. "Do you have any idea what the media would do if they found out Callum Ashford collapsed in his own home?" So this was Callum Ashford. Even injured and irritated, he was striking. Dark hair, sharp jawline, expensive shirt now stained with blood. He looked like he'd walked out of a corporate photo shoot, except for the whole bleeding on the floor situation. "I don't care who you are," Iris said, surprising herself with her boldness. "You need help." Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or respect. People probably didn't talk to him like that. "Fine," he conceded. "Help me to the bathroom. There's a first aid kit under the sink." Iris slipped her arm under his, helping him stand. He was taller than she'd expected, and heavier with muscle, despite his lean frame. They shuffled slowly to the bathroom, a space larger than her entire apartment, with heated floors and a rainfall shower that could fit 6 people. She sat him down on the closed toilet and retrieved the first aid kit. Her hands were steady as she cleaned the wound. It wasn't as bad as it looked, a shallow cut just above his hairline. "What happened?" she asked as she worked. "I stood up too fast," he muttered. "Got dizzy. Haven't eaten all day. Haven't slept properly in 3 days. Stupid." "Very stupid," Iris agreed, applying antiseptic. He flinched. "When's the last time you drank water?" He was silent. "That's what I thought." She finished bandaging the cut and stepped back. "You need food, water and sleep, in that order." Callum looked at her, really looked at her for the first time. His grey eyes were intense, searching. "You're not what I expected. I'm a florist, not a nurse," Iris said, cleaning up the bloodied cotton pads. "But I have a younger sister who faints when she doesn't eat, so I know the signs." "A florist," he repeated slowly. Then his gaze shifted to the doorway. "The flowers. You're here to deliver flowers." "Was here to deliver flowers," Iris corrected. "Now I'm apparently playing medic to a billionaire who doesn't know how to take care of himself." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Most people don't talk to me like that." Maybe they should. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. Callum continued to study her, and Iris found herself unable to look away. There was something magnetic about him, even in his disheveled state. Or maybe especially in his disheveled state, when the armor of wealth and power had cracked enough to show the exhausted human underneath. "Stay," he said suddenly. Iris blinked. "What?" "Stay. For dinner." He stood slowly, testing his balance. "You said I need to eat. I don't want to eat alone. And you—" He paused. "You saved me from a very embarrassing headline. Let me thank you properly." "I can't," Iris said automatically. "I have to get back. My sister—" "I'll pay you double what the flower delivery was worth," Callum interrupted. "Triple. Name your price." Iris opened her mouth to refuse, then closed it. She thought of Dahlia's tuition, the leak in the ceiling, the electric bill that was already 2 weeks overdue. Her pride warred with her practicality. "Just dinner," she said finally. "And you have to actually eat, not just push food around your plate." "Deal." 20 minutes later, they sat at the massive dining table, while a chef Callum had called prepared a simple meal of grilled salmon and vegetables. Iris had insisted on simplicity. Your stomach can't handle anything heavy right now, she'd told him, and he'd listened without argument. So, Callum said, cutting into his fish with surgical precision, how does a florist end up playing Florence Nightingale to a stranger? How does a billionaire end up passing out alone in his penthouse? Iris countered. He smiled, a real one this time. Touché. They ate in companionable silence for a moment. The city lights twinkled below them, a sea of artificial stars. I built a company, Callum said quietly. Started it in my garage 7 years ago. Now it's worth $2 billion, employs 3,000 people, and I can't remember the last time I had a conversation that wasn't about stock prices or board meetings. Iris set down her fork. That sounds lonely. It is. He met her eyes. What about you? Do you like flowers? I love them, Iris said simply. Each one is different, unique. People think flowers are just decoration, but they're so much more. They're apologies and celebrations and grief and joy, all wrapped in petals. You sound like a poet. I sound like someone who's been arranging flowers for 4 years, she laughed, but then her expression grew more serious. I wanted to be a botanist, had a scholarship and everything. But my parents died in a car accident when I was 22, and suddenly I had a 15-year-old sister to raise. College had to wait. Callum's face softened. I'm sorry. Don't be. Dahlia's amazing. She's about to start college herself. If I can figure out how to pay for it. Iris shook her head. Sorry, you don't need to hear about my problems. Maybe I do, Callum said quietly. Maybe it's nice to hear about real problems that matter. They talked for hours, about everything and nothing. Iris told him about the flower shop, about her sister's dreams of becoming a doctor, about the tiny apartment they shared where the heating barely worked. Callum talked about the pressure of success, the isolation of wealth, the way people looked at his bank account instead of his face. Everyone wants something from me, he admitted as they moved to the living room, settling on the leather couch with coffee. Business deals, investments, connections, no one just wants me. I don't want anything from you, Iris said. I know. He turned to face her. That's why I asked you to stay. And the moment stretched between them, charged with something neither could name. Outside, the city hummed with life, but inside the penthouse there was only silence and possibility. Iris's phone buzzed. A text from Dahlia. Where are you? You said you'd be home by 7. Reality crashed back. Iris stood abruptly. I have to go. My sister's waiting. Callum stood too, and for a moment she thought he might ask her to stay longer. Instead, he walked to a desk and pulled out a business card. This is my private number, he said, pressing it into her hand. Not the office line, just mine, if you ever need anything. Or if you just want to talk to someone who understands what it's like to feel alone in a crowded room. Iris looked down at the card, then back at him. Why are you giving me this? Because in 3 hours, you've been more real with me than anyone has been in 3 years, Callum said simply. And I don't want that to end just because the flower delivery is over. Her heart did something complicated in her chest. I'll think about it. That's all I ask. The elevator ride down felt different than the ride up. Iris kept touching the business card in her pocket, feeling the expensive paper stock, the embossed letters. When she reached her van, she sat in the driver's seat for a long moment before starting the engine. She should throw the card away. Men like Callum Ashford lived in different worlds. This was a nice evening, nothing more. She'd go back to her flowers, he'd go back to his billions, and that would be that. But she didn't throw it away. 3 days later, Iris was closing up the shop when her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? It's Callum. His voice was hesitant, uncertain in a way that made him sound younger. I know this is forward, but there's an art exhibition tomorrow night. Nothing fancy, just a small gallery. I have 2 tickets, and I was wondering if you'd want to go. As friends. Just conversation. No expectations. Iris should have said no. She had a dozen reasons to say no. But what came out of her mouth was, "What time?" She could hear the smile in his voice. 7. I'll pick you up." "No," Iris said quickly. "I'll meet you there. Send me the address." "Independent, I like that." "I'm practical," Iris corrected. "There's a difference." The gallery was small and intimate, tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. Callum was waiting outside, and when he saw her, his face lit up in a way that made her stomach flip. He'd dressed down, jeans and a simple black sweater, trying to blend in. It almost worked, except nothing could hide the way he carried himself, that quiet confidence that came from conquering the world before 30. "You came," he said. "I almost didn't," Iris admitted. "What changed your mind?" She thought about the question seriously. "You said as friends. Most men in your position would have said date and expected something. You didn't. That's because I meant it," Callum said. "Though I won't pretend I don't hope it might become something more eventually. But for now, I just want to know you better." They wandered through the gallery, looking at abstract paintings and sculptures that twisted light into strange shapes. They debated the meaning of art, laughed at pretentious gallery-goers, and shared a bottle of wine that cost more than Iris made in a week. "Can I ask you something?" Callum said as they stood in front of a painting of a flower, a single orchid rendered in painful detail. "Sure. That night I collapsed. You could have just called an ambulance and left. Why didn't you?" Iris studied the painting, thinking, "Because you asked me not to. And because I could see you weren't just being difficult, you were protecting yourself. I understand that. When my parents died, everyone wanted to help. But what they really wanted was to feel good about helping. You weren't asking for that. You were asking for discretion, respect, so I gave it to you." Callum was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. No one's ever understood that before. They left the gallery as it was closing, walking slowly through the quiet streets. The night air was cool, and Iris pulled her thin jacket tighter. Without a word, Callum shrugged off his coat and draped it over her shoulders. It smelled like expensive cologne, and something uniquely him. "I can't accept this," Iris protested. "This probably costs more than my car." "It's a coat, not a marriage proposal," Callum said with a smile. "Though if you keep it, I'll have an excuse to see you again to get it back." Iris laughed despite herself. "You're smoother than you look." "I'm really not. I'm terrified right now." "Of what?" "That you'll disappear," he admitted. "That I'll wake up and realize this was just a dream. That Monday morning I'll be back in my glass tower, surrounded by people who only see my bank account, and you'll be arranging flowers for someone else's love story instead of being part of mine." Iris stopped walking. They were standing under a streetlight, the glow making shadows dance across his face. "Callum, I know it's too fast," he interrupted. "I know we barely know each other, but I haven't felt this alive in years. You make me want to be more than my company's valuation. You make me want to be human again." Her heart was pounding. This was crazy, absolutely insane. "You didn't fall for someone after one dinner and one gallery visit. That wasn't how life worked. Except maybe sometimes it was." "I'm scared too," Iris whispered. "Scared that this is temporary, that eventually you'll realize I'm just a florist from the wrong side of town who can't afford the things you're used to, that I'll be an embarrassment." Callum took her hand gently. "The only thing that would embarrass me is losing you, because I was too afraid to try." He didn't kiss her. Not yet. Instead, he just held her hand as they walked back to where she'd parked, talking about everything and nothing, building something fragile and precious between them. Over the next few months, they built a life in the spaces between their different worlds. Callum would show up at the flower shop with coffee, sitting on a stool and watching Iris work. She'd visit his penthouse after closing, and they'd cook dinner together, simple meals that he'd never learned to make because he'd always had chefs. He met Dahlia, who was suspicious at first, but won over when Callum spent 2 hours helping her with her chemistry homework without once mentioning his wealth. He set up a scholarship fund in Iris's parents' names, ensuring Dahlia and dozens of other students could afford college. Iris taught him to slow down, to find joy in small moments. A perfectly brewed cup of tea, the way morning light hit flower petals, the satisfaction of creating something beautiful with your hands. He taught her that accepting help wasn't weakness, that dreams could be delayed but never destroyed, that love didn't care about bank accounts or social class. 6 months after that first flower delivery, Callum proposed. Not with a massive diamond or a public spectacle, but in the flower shop after hours, surrounded by roses and lilies and orchids. "I don't have a ring yet," he admitted, kneeling among the flower buckets. "I wanted you to pick it out, or not have one at all if you don't want. But I do have this." He pulled out a single seed packet. "Iris Germanica, your namesake. I thought we could plant them together, watch them grow, build something beautiful that lasts." Iris was crying before he finished speaking. "You absolute sap. Is that a yes? That's a, I can't believe I'm marrying a billionaire who proposes with seeds." She laughed through her tears. "Yes, obviously yes." The wedding was small, just close friends and family, held in a botanical garden surrounded by thousands of flowers. Dahlia was the maid of honor, wearing a dress Callum had insisted on buying, though he'd pretended it came from Iris when she protested. As they stood under an arch of white roses, exchanging vows, Callum whispered, "I'm glad you delivered to the wrong penthouse." "It wasn't the wrong penthouse," Iris whispered back. "It was exactly where I was meant to be." Years later, they'd tell the story to their children about how their mother delivered flowers to a stranger and ended up staying for dinner. How sometimes the best love stories start with a wrong turn and a bleeding billionaire who needed someone to see past his money to the lonely man underneath. And in the garden of their home, purple irises bloomed every spring, a reminder that the most beautiful things often grow from the smallest seeds of kindness. And that's where our story ends today. What did you think? Did Iris and Callum's unexpected connection touch your heart? Let us know in the comments what your favorite moment was. If you enjoyed this story, we have so many more waiting for you. Check out our playlist for more heartwarming romance tales that will make you believe in love all over again. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and give us a thumbs up. Your support means everything to us. Until next time, keep believing in love, keep believing in second chances, and remember, the best stories are the ones that remind us we all deserve our happily ever after. See you in the next story.